Good afternoon. I'm Mary Kramer, and it is my privilege to be the director of Detroit Homecoming. And I want to welcome you to our 9th annual Detroit Homecoming and the first fully in-person homecoming since 2019. Yeah. This session is kind of the unofficial start of homecoming. From the very beginning, one of the keenest interests that we had from people who used to live here and were coming back was real estate. They wanted to know what was going on in Detroit, and we, as you can tell from our program book and from past years, real estate has been one of the things that people have connected with the most, whether the investment was small or large. And so this might be a catalyst for new things this year. And don't forget to tell us, because we like to tell our foundation partners that we are having an effect in putting people together and giving them the experiences that might inspire good things for Detroit. So my role today is just to kick things off and to introduce the next session, but to also remind you that we're going to do about an hour in this room. This will be your home for the next couple of days. And this is the former UAW General Motors Training Center, which is kind of an amazing thing, but it is now owned by Bedrock, the real estate arm of Dan Gilbert's empire. And so we are thrilled to be here through Friday. After this session, there's going to be 3 buses outside. Hopefully, the traffic stuff that was happening because of the president's visit at the auto show, we'll have figured out how to maneuver around it, and we'll be taking the tours. More on the tours at the end of this program. But now it is my pleasure to introduce the moderator for this very first session. I want to tell you a little bit about Eric. Eric Larson is a real estate developer himself. His family is steeped in real estate. He's got national profile when it comes to real estate development and real estate leadership. But he also is the CEO of the Downtown Detroit Partnership. And that has been our fiduciary and our strong partner since day one for Detroit Homecoming. We could not do this event without DDP because Crane is a for-profit company and we cannot receive grants directly from foundations. So it's with the DDP that we are really able to do this. They are our fiduciary. So please welcome to the stage Eric Larson, who's going to kick off the 9th Annual Real Estate Forum.
Hi, everyone. I didn't know, Mary, am I? Just a housekeeping, am I inviting everyone out myself? All right. I thought this voice of God or something was going to come since you did such a great job. So hi, everybody. Eric Larson. Everybody's coming out. Jed Howbert. Yeah, that'd be great. And then Chase Cantrell, Tosha Tabron, Tim Conder, and Ron Mcdonald. So sorry about that, guys. I thought that there was going to be this fancy announcement. There was incredible graphics, fireworks, the whole bit. Clearly, this group deserves fireworks and everything else. Thrilled that you're here, and I'm actually going to sit down with this group now. So thanks. We're in a little bit different order. But Jed, I think I'm going to just go down the line. If we could take a minute, talk a little bit about what Greatwater Capital Partners is doing, and then we'll get into a little bit of why Detroit.
Sounds great. Hi, I'm Jed Howbert. This is what I look like when my face is not super close to the circle that you see it through in the slide. Like I'm getting really close to the peephole. Yeah, exactly. No. So this is the rest of my face. We have slides, right? Are we able to pull those up?
We do.
Is it possible to pull up the slides for Greatwater?
I've got a
we'll
clicker,
see you while they're being worked on.
Pull them up for you.
Is this a clicker?
Yeah, you can work through them with that, but they're going to pull them up for you.
All right, here we go. And you're right in
We'll
front,
do that.
You're right there, too, Jed. It helps you.
Perfect. So, Greatwater is a Detroit-based real estate investor and developer. With the theme of this event, we are very sort of expat-oriented. It's owned by a group of people. I'm one of the partners who are all from the Detroit area, and some of us still live here and some of us live elsewhere. 100% of our business is in Detroit. All of our investments are in the city of Detroit. We do a variety of different products, but our sweet spot is really multifamily acquisition and rehab. And in particular, within the multifamily world, hitting what can have a variety of fancy different names, whether it's workforce housing or naturally occurring affordable housing or attainable housing. It's really just housing for average people. And in particular, in terms of new residents, a lot of the quintessential folks that you see moving into cities, the 25-year-old making 50 grand who wants to live in an apartment in the city. So we've got some pictures after this, but I don't have the ability to go in reverse, I believe, so I'll show those in a minute. You can see on the slide, our income mix is very middle income, hedging to lower income. So almost all of our units are attainable to people that make only 80% of the area median income. So it really meets these classifications of a classic workforce or naturally occurring affordable housing strategy, as I mentioned. We have raised over $160 million. About 2/3 of that is opportunity zone capital, and 1/3 is non-opportunity zone, just conventional equity. And collectively, having raised that money, the principals have bought around 1,500 apartments in the city of Detroit. Our investors range from all shapes and sizes, from relatively small investors who have been with us across multiple funds over several years, up at the large end of the spectrum to a joint venture with Goldman Sachs that's actively deploying opportunity zone dollars in the city today. Our latest fund is an OZ fund, Greatwater 9. It will finish deployment in a couple months, and we're going to do another OZ fundraise at that point. And we are actively raising Greatwater 10, which is a workforce non-OZ fund at the moment, because we see a lot of opportunity in that space. And then the final thing I'll say before showing a couple quick pictures is we are not a social impact organization. We are a for-profit business providing good market rate returns to our investors. But we're a group of people who care a lot about the city of Detroit, and we take this responsibility very seriously. In acknowledgement of the work we've done, Freddie Mac just awarded us the 2022 Impact Sponsor Award for the affordability targets we hit, for the environmental initiatives we take in our rehabs, and for other things like we work with a positive credit reporting program for our tenants that allows tenants to build up a credit history by paying their rent. It's entirely voluntary to tenants. It is only positive, meaning it only gets reported if they pay the rent and not if they don't pay their rent, so it's all upside. And it's something we pay for to allow tenants to build credit history as they work with us in our buildings. So very quickly, great old buildings around the city that we're buying at very attractive pricing and then putting a lot of money into fix-up. And the fix-up that we do is not luxury. It's aimed at this middle-income person. It's not a ultra high-end unit, but it's a lovely unit that people enjoy living in, and that's why our occupancy rates are so high and were even during COVID. So that's the thumbnail of Greatwater.
Great, thank you, Jed.
All right.
So going down the line, Chase Cantrell. I can't thank you enough for being here, founder, executive director of Building Community Value. You want to talk a little bit about building community value and yourself?
Yeah, so hopefully we can get the slides up for Building Community Value as well. Okay, there we go. Although
there is reverse.
There is a reverse. So we learn as we go. Yeah. So I'm Chase Cantrell, as Eric said, the founder of Building Community Value, and I came into this work in an interesting way. I didn't start off as a real estate developer. I actually started off as a corporate and real estate lawyer at a large firm here in the city of Detroit. And I started my career in 2008 when the crash hit. So in September of 2008, just weeks before the recession began. And as you can imagine, Detroit in 2008, at that time, banks weren't lending, developers were struggling. So a lot of our transactions had dried up. So this is a very interesting time to begin my profession, but as things slowly began to come back, I had got the chance to work on some pretty interesting, innovative transactions downtown. You can imagine how complicated the capital stacks were on some of those initial projects in 2010 and 2011. But over time, what I realized is that I'm a native Detroiter, born and raised, and most of the transactions and most of the clients that we had at the firm didn't necessarily reflect the demographics of the city of Detroit. So for me, just over time, learning the craft over years, I realized that there had to be a way for me to begin to teach and give back the things that I had been learning through the profession that I was practicing at the time. So in 2016, I started an organization called Building Community Value. And the ethos of the organization really is that, far from just accepting any development in the city, that Detroiters themselves are oftentimes the best place to do development in our neighborhoods. So the kind of cultural expertise, the kind of knowledge that we have of our neighborhoods really makes us well placed to do neighborhood level, small scale, and large scale development in the city. So we have a program called Better Buildings, Better Blocks. It is a pretty intensive program where we take folks through pro forma development, that economic analysis that you need to really do real estate development, bringing in resource partners, CDFIs, other financial institutions, architects, contractors, all the things that you need to really understand how development works. And then as folks are actually going through their projects, offering real-time technical assistance so that, as you're dealing with the city of Detroit, if you're dealing with a contractor, if you're going through an issue, that you can actually talk to experts to say, how do I go through this process and what can I do to actually succeed? Mm-hmm. So we've had over 350 Detroit residents go through the program, and this is pretty geographically broad-based. So we have folks from all 7 districts of the city, as well as Highland Park and Hamtramck. So we're really trying to reach every corner of the city, and we've had about 13 cohorts. And this didn't get created in a vacuum. We worked closely with the University of Michigan, who designed the curriculum. There's actually a professor there that many people may know, Peter Allen, who taught real estate development for decades at U of M, who created the curriculum for the course and actually began teaching the course when it was first created. So we've had tons of people who've gone through the course. We've created this really robust network of folks who are interested in neighborhood level development, who really want to share resources and share information with each other and deepen their own craft. So, this is an example of one of the cohorts.
That's amazing.
Great.
So just pretty quickly, most of these are Black and brown residents of the city, and folks really start off doing residential. So we have a lot of folks who are doing 1 to 4 unit rehab, but we also have folks doing commercial, really just scaling up. And the way that we look at this is that we're creating the pipeline of the developers who can do these larger new construction projects in the downtown core and our 7.2. So even the mayor in his State of the City address this year actually pointed out some of our alums. So Damon Dickerson went through the program. He's working on a mixed-use project on the east side, as well as Edward Carrington. So we're seeing people being able to start with 1 to 4 unit residential rehab, but move their way up to more and more complex transactions. So I've seen pretty good success with this. We have a lot of interesting partners, and I often say that BCV is the undergrad course. We also have other ecosystem partners like Capital Impact Partners. Mm-hmm. They have an equitable development initiative where they're teaching folks who can do the larger projects, the $5 million or more projects, as well as an org that Kresge supports, the Real Estate Association of Developers, is really advocating on behalf of Black and brown developers in the city. So we're really not just teaching folks who are entry level, but we're creating a full pipeline and an ecosystem that really supports this kind of development work.
Mm-hmm. That's great, Chase. Thank you. Tosha Tabron, so Social Impact Officer for Kresge, and I think one of the interesting things, Tosha, that we're going to see in this theme is all of you have had a role in Detroit through a whole number of lenses, and so Kresge obviously does that in a lot of different programs, but you're here to speak about some of the things that are specific to Detroit.
Yes, thank you so much, and if we could bring up the slides for EBR, that'd be great. So thank you for that. Thank you, Cranes, for having us and allowing for this platform to talk about our work in neighborhoods in Detroit. My name is Tosha Tabron, as Eric shared, and my role at the Kresge Foundation is really thinking about where private capital is and how we move it into disinvested areas inside of the city of Detroit. There's 2 ways that we look at doing that at Kresge within the social investment practice, and the first way, this is basic 2 ways. So the first way is looking at it from how do we de-risk those risk dollars and make it so that private capital is protected. So we protect your money first. And so we love to bring private capital along by using our $4.5 billion balance sheet as a credit enhancement to bring along protections for private capital. The second way we do that to entice private capital to move in Detroit neighborhoods is through tests. We'll go in first and make sure the water's warm, and demonstrate that, and then we entice private capital and attract that private capital to come into the neighborhoods across the city of Detroit. So What I brought up on the screen here is one of the neighborhoods that we've been working in for quite some time. Sorry, it's a little busy, but if you look at the end caps of this neighborhood, you have all of the elements that a real estate developer would love to capitalize on as they're thinking about where they want to place their projects. You've got 2 anchor institutions, education institutions that are right now putting in over $100 million collectively into their campuses and their redevelopment. You have city resources building out parks. You have infrastructure going along the corridor. You have redevelopment of housing stock in that neighborhood. This is one of the densest neighborhoods. This is the Livernois and McNichols neighborhood. This is one of the densest neighborhoods for middle-class families in the city. So all of those elements that would lend to a strong corridor are there, but it's still an emerging market, and there are emerging developers that are coming out of Chase's Cantrell's program and others that want to work in here that private capital is not sure about whether or not they want to land their dollars here. So one of the tests that we put in place too in 2015 was the Strategic Neighborhood Fund, and this is an example of one of the areas. And what we saw from that over the last 7 years is that having a patient product in place to help Black and brown developers grow their developments is what is needed. And we've used other types of creative financing to try to do projects in the neighborhoods. What was really missing was an equity tool. So our partners, Invest Detroit and the EBIARA Fund, which again, this is a demonstration project, and our dollars of $10 million built out an $11 million fund to help Black and brown developers build up the equity they need to do more projects in neighborhoods like this that have all the other elements except the capital tool is missing. So if I can give you an example of what we believe will be more projects like this because of EBIARA, I intentionally picked 2 projects. One is the next one will be with Chase Cantrell, because Chase is not going to obviously talk about his own projects at this forum, but I'll talk about it for you, Chase. So 7303 McNichols is a project with Urge, Hosey, and Georgia Nnamdi Development. Richard Hosey has been a developer in this space for some time, and so has Rod Hardiman. He's been on this stage before at Crane's talking about his work, but now he's a partner in the EBIARA Fund. He has a development going on in this neighborhood that capitalized on the Strategic Neighborhood Fund dollars. And so firsthand, he understands what's needed for Black and brown developers to get projects done. This is a demonstration of one of those developments. It's bringing affordable housing, the first mixed-use development onto the corridor. Huge catalyst for what we want to see happen on the development. You can see what that building looks like now. I'm glad it's gone. If you go there, that building is already gone. There's dirt there. And on the other side, you'll see what he will be erecting in that neighborhood. The next one in the same corridor is a project led by Chase Cantrell with his team. $3.4 million worth of investment going into this. Private capital came in with him, and a Strategic Neighborhood Fund was a partner in this project. So as you see, this development, along with the other 4 that were in that map, will continue to be a catalyst for growth, and we're building a market, in the Livernois and McNichols corridor. What we believe is that this $11 million EBIARA fund will continue to create markets, just like the Livernois and McNichols corridors. We're looking to build up 10 new firms, at least, from this and accelerate their growth, providing dollars right onto their balance sheet that they can use for projects. Another $11 million in another 30 more projects in the Detroit neighborhoods will be developed from this, and we're hoping to leverage at least $200 million in private capital from this fund. This is just the start. I'm here to say that we are looking and raising capital right now for the next fund. We're going to figure out all the kinks in this first $11 million, and we'll be here to build up more developers in the space to do more work that are coming from Chase Cantrell's program and the other programs that he's talked about. And that's our space in the ecosystem here.
That's great. Thank you, Tasha. And unbelievable success in a very short period of time. And again, great demonstration. Tim Conder, VP of Development for Northpoint Development LLC. More on the industrial side, Tim, but obviously impacting a number of these communities within the city of Detroit.
Well, thank you, Eric. And my name's Tim Conder. I'm with Northpoint Development. I'd like to thank Cranes Detroit for inviting me to this forum and homecoming. I'm honored to be here. Northpoint Development has been very active, the most active developer in the United States in the last 5 years. We've developed over 140 million square feet of industrial space, just big concrete boxes that we use to house our tenants. We came into the Detroit market about 3 years ago. We have 8 projects in the Detroit and metropolitan area. Of those 8 projects, we have 2 in the city of Detroit. One is over on Conder, over near City Airport at Gratiot. We just completed that. It's a 700,000 square foot industrial building. Lear Corporation has taken 65% of the building, so we're pleased with that. They brought along over 500 permanent jobs. We had 200 construction jobs there as well. We intend to close on the old AMC site off of Plymouth Road on the west side of Detroit October 6th. So we're excited about that project. That project will generate at least 200 temporary construction jobs and over 500 permanent jobs. We like the Detroit market quite a bit. We've opened up an office on Woodward right next door to the new Huntington Bank building. Oh, sure. So we are actively looking for more sites. When our portfolio, when the 8 projects are all built out, we'll have over $900 million in capital invested in the area. Within the city of Detroit, we'll have over $150 million of capital invested. We're not done. We're still actively looking for sites. We'd like to do more in the city, and we'd like to do more in the area. The hard part is just finding developable sites. You need to have a certain amount of size in order to and scale in order to have a developable site, and you don't see those in many of the urban areas. So we are looking. We're not done, and we're excited to be part of what's happening in Detroit now.
That's great. Thank Tim. And then last but not least, and we'll come back through the line again, but the real Ronald Mcdonald,
Right. That's right.
Managing Director and Principal of RCM Development, also partnered with Vanguard, and a very good friend, a longtime friend, Daryl Carter at Avanthith Capital. Mary, my notes say that Ron is the expat on this panel. I'd like to throw a little bit of a wrench into that because I think of Jed as an expat too, who is still commuting back and forth to Detroit and still is passionate about Detroit. But thank you for being here. Thank you for coming to Detroit, and thank you for continuing to practice your profession in Detroit.
Thank you for having me. Good afternoon, everyone. Nice to be home. This is my second time. I think when Cranes did homecoming the first year I attended, I got a nice Tigers jersey with my name on the back. Mary says that's when they had a real nice budget. So I'm born and raised here in the city. I grew up in Northwest Detroit, graduate of U of D Jesuit. My mother taught at Murray Wright for 30 years. I left Detroit, went to Naval Academy, graduated from Naval Academy, and I worked 10 years as a naval officer before getting into commercial real estate. In the 30 years that I've been in the business, I've never had an opportunity to come back and do anything here in the city. The project that we're working on here, North End Landing, was that opportunity. As Eric mentioned, Daryl Carter, who is the CEO of Avanthith Capital. They're based in Irvine, California. Daryl's a Cass Tech graduate. He and I have known each other for 20, 25 years. And we always talked about the opportunity to come back home and be able to do a project. But we never saw anything that lined up and made sense. So I guess it's been about 3 years now, maybe 3.5. I got a call, and Daryl said that he had received a call from a University of Michigan classmate, Pam Martin Turner, who's the CEO of Vanguard, the community development core and our community partner, and that they had a project that they were struggling to try and get off of the ground. And we thought, okay, here's our opportunity to go home So we, put the band together, came here and started to take a look at the North End neighborhood. One of the, and I'll go through some slides here and show you this, but one of the things that Tim mentioned was the fact that typically a developer needs a critical mass and needs a site that's suitable because of some of the blight that's happened and the demolition in the city. There's sort of that missing tooth pattern as you look at aerials of some of the neighborhoods here in Detroit. And that's what we found in the North End, that we would need to cover several areas where there were existing structures, but that we would not be able to build, a 200 or 300 unit typical multifamily building, which is much more efficient and attractive. So we put a team together here, and here's the land mass here. If you can see, we're spread out over a pretty wide area, and I'll let you know here that there's only 177 units because of the scale that we needed to develop there in the neighborhood. So when I talk about not having, a footprint that was suitable, you can see here that we're, spread out over several blocks, and I think that's approximately 37 lots. We are in opportunity zones, 2 opportunity zones, so we began the project as an opportunity zone development. The land assembly was probably one of the most challenging components here. We worked with the land bank. There are 26 land bank lots. Vanguard had existing property, 2 lots, and then we had private acquisitions, which are always interesting to go to the neighborhood, as the supposedly deep-pocketed developer trying to buy private lots. So that took a while, but we were able to assemble that. Our development program, again, 177 units. We will have at least 20% affordable, higher if we can figure out a way to do that. The concentration here is primarily seniors. We have 93 senior units of that 177. There are 2-story walk-ups for most of the buildings, and that was, again, to keep the buildings at a scale of 2 stories, consistent with the other buildings in the neighborhood. The seniors will be in 3- and 4-story buildings, which are a lot closer to Woodward on John R. Here's sort of an aerial of what the view of the neighborhood looks like, and I guess you can get a better sense of sort of the missing tooth vantage point where you have huge swaths of vacant land, and then you have homeowners who have stayed and maintained their homes. And it can be challenging to try to understand how to develop anything of scale with that type of a footprint. This kind of gives you a sense of the improved view once we have completed construction. You see the 2 large buildings there on the left of the slide. Those are the seniors. Those are on John R. That is Smith Street, where the bulk of the development is there, and that green parcel is Dolores Bennett Park. We, in response to many of the community concerns about density, we created a pretty significant amount of green space there. You can see that there are areas that we have created to significantly increase the amount of green space in the project. Sort of an overall view of our site plan. One of the components there you can see in the middle is an orange block there. Another community concern was that this was all rental product. Avaneth is one of the largest multifamily, minority multifamily firms in the country. There are about 13,000+ units in 14 different states, and their strategy is strictly rental product. We partnered locally with Jason Jones of Tecton Development to address the community concerns of there not being any for sale product in our mix. So Jason will deliver 6 to 8 townhomes on the parcels that he already had site control for when we started our land assembly. Sort of an artist rendering of what this may look like when viewed from Dolores Bennett Park, where you see that concentration of buildings. Now that entire block is vacant. It is from one end of the block to the other. There is not one structure standing on that side of the street. Community benefits, the way the project laid out, it's probably about a $45 million project where we do not necessarily meet the thresholds of the CBO, your community benefit ordinance, but we proactively put together a pretty significant list of community benefits. There are obviously too many to read through here, but small business funds of $100,000 for North End businesses. We are attempting a crowdfunding, which I think you've done before, Eric, so we're going to have to pick your brain on how we get through that. For residents of the North End who want ownership of some portion in the project. Homeowner beautification, we are setting aside funds to help homeowners who have existing homes who are worried about the shiny new object coming and making their homes not necessarily look great. We will fund improvements to homeowners who are located adjacent to our project. So there are a host of community benefits that we put together just in working through a community engagement process. Our timeline for the project, again, we've been here for a very long time with the land assembly, working with the land bank and the neighborhood community groups. We hope to leverage your tax abatement tools, your neighborhood enterprise zone, your brownfield TIF, and we also will start our site plan application process here, hopefully by the end of this month. We'd like to be in the ground with construction by the spring of 2023. Thank you.
That's great. Thank you, Ron. And so when did you start that process?
Not
22 years ago like Annapolis.
No, not 22 years ago like that one, no, yeah. But this has been a long one,
Been a long one.
as
So
well.
it's really interesting, and I just want to do a real quick time check because we have our second panel also this afternoon before we do this bus tour. So we've got about 10 minutes, so we need to be sort of thoughtful about the amount of time we have, and I know we have a tremendous amount of experience and content that is represented on this stage. And so, Jed, it's interesting. You got bored with Bloomberg, came and got Mayor Duggan set up and going in the right direction, and then decided to go off and do this here in Detroit. Chase, you obviously had done everything you could at Dykema and decided that you needed to do something with your own name on it. Tosha, you started with J.P. Morgan and then went to Invest Detroit, and now Kresge. Tim, General Motors, and now Northpoint. Ron, you've been everywhere, so protecting our country and everything else, so thank you for your service. But I think it's really interesting that the common thread is, as I listen to you, we've heard Capital Impact, we've heard Invest Detroit, we've heard the City of Detroit, we've heard Vanguard. There are local partners that are ultimately allowing all this work to happen. It wouldn't happen without those kinds of connectivity, and the relationships that have been built over the past sort of experiences that each of you have had and are bringing to your current opportunities and jobs. Can you touch a little bit on the importance of that and why that's different in Detroit? Because I think that's one of the things that's most sticky about Detroit is the relationships and the way that we all can find a way to come together even in the most difficult times. Because I think that's part of what this group is trying to figure out is how do I enter this market if I have an interest?
Are you taking that? I'll take it. I'll start.
Yeah.
In the audience today is Rod Hardiman, Aaron Seibert, Dave Blaskowitz from Invest Detroit. These are partners, as you said, that work together in the private sector, the public sector. Jed, you're on our boards within all these organizations and listen to these conversations on the loan community. There's all this connectivity within the real estate ecosystem. Chase is mentoring developers. Kresge Foundation is just providing long, sustained investments in the neighborhoods over time, $160 million, annually into cities. So you're right. I mean, there is this very functional ecosystem that we have here that allows us to pick up the phone, to look at the problems that are happening within neighborhoods, and we can tap into the private sector, the public sector, the philanthropic sector comes together around issues to help the neighborhoods. And because of that, we get some really amazing things done. I think the next big thing that the sector is, or at least our organization is focused on, is how do we make sure that all of these dollars that are coming in from the private sector flow into Detroit, flow into the neighborhoods in ways that really address different needs that are needed for real estate development to continue to happen the way it has, and in the right hands of organization and residents that can put it to use.
Yeah. Jen?
Yeah, I mean, if I could add to that, I think this is a characteristic of real estate, right? That there is not a national market in real estate. There are a series of local markets in real estate, and any city you go to, you have to learn the local permitting environment, how the government works, how the communities work, what the local politics are. I do think that because there hasn't been as much development in Detroit for a long time, the need to learn all of those things and build real local relationships is all the more important. If you show up in Miami or New York, there's this massive yellow pages of real estate attorneys and building department expediters and community advocates and other stuff that you can start working on. I don't want to overemphasize how easy that is, but there's more of a liquid market in terms of knowledge and relationships available in places that have a lot of development flowing through them. And one of the reasons we founded Greatwater, and I think right to Eric's question was the need to have more developers that really know the city well, know the bureaucracy, know the permitting, know the relevant officials, know the politics, and critically know the community and the organizations that represent the neighbors and the places where we invest. So what Eric had alluded to is I was in the mayor's office for 4 years here. I came back during the bankruptcy to restructure the planning department and the housing department, and then led those agencies with several others, ultimately as the city's director, group executive for planning, housing, and development. And really building on the relationships we have. Our team is a lot of people that come out of the DEGC and out of the city's housing department who live in Detroit's neighborhoods, and it allows us to supply the knowledge and the relationships which in a lot of other cities might be easier to get just by picking up the phone, but that's not the way it works here all the time.
Yeah. Chase, you got to...
I mean, I think there's a different imperative here too. So I just came back from a vacant land conference in Chicago last week, and everyone's looking to Detroit as a national model because we have so much vacant land, over 24 acres, or over 24 square miles of vacant land. So when you begin to think about having one of the largest land banks in the nation, with starting off at almost 100,000 parcels, we're down to 73. But 73,000 parcels in a city that's 139 square miles. I mean, we have to come together. I don't think we have the luxury of not doing that. But we've also, I think, just the way that Detroit is, we've seen it as an opportunity rather than just a challenge. So, we see those sorts of forced partnerships, but I think that also creates the innovation that, we're seeing in the ecosystem and people working together, just because we have no other alternative but to be creative in the space where we live.
It's a great point. I mean, the only way we can be successful is by inventing it ourselves. Tim, do you have a perspective, especially from the industrial?
Our approach to Detroit was to partner with the city. We felt that it was important to work with the city. The city owns a lot of the vacant land, the blighted sites. We're not afraid of the big brownfields. That doesn't bother us at all. But we felt that the best way to approach it was work with the city, work with the DEGC. Take the guidance from the city council and really listen to what the neighbors have to say about what goes into their neighborhood. Yeah. And we did, and I think we're better off for that. And I think, and I hopefully feel like the city views us as a good partner in that respect.
So Ron, unfortunately, because we could spend hours on having conversations together, all six of us. But I'm going to end it with you. You bring a little bit different perspective to this panel because you are doing things all over the country with your partners. You have found this to not be the easiest and smoothest of processes. Doesn't mean that it isn't getting fixed. Doesn't mean that you aren't identifying opportunities to better things as you go. But can you put some perspective on, clearly you were personally committed to this project, but if you hadn't been personally committed, would you still be going forward with it? I mean, this is a group that has to find a way to bring their capital to this market.
Absolutely. Yes.
And you have blazed a trail that we've got to be able to follow. And so don't pause so long on whether you'd go forward.
Yeah. I would say no. I think that the personal commitment and the fact, both me and my capital partner are from, obviously, Detroit, born and raised. Always wanted to come back and do something here. Avanif's got $3 billion of assets under management. So they've got, pretty significant amount of capital resources, which we found were very necessary because of the protracted pre-development period. If you look at the buildings that we, are putting up, they're pretty simple. They're pretty straightforward. The complexity there, I think, is that the city's economic development tools have been focused on the downtown, midtown area. When you get into the neighborhoods, particularly a project of the scale that we're doing, you just haven't had that development in the neighborhoods. So many instances we've had to fit the square peg into the round hole. So I think part of it is just the maturation of the city's development process, the combination of the land bank, the planning department, the city, the council. When they get further down the road in concert, I think you'll see more development in the neighborhoods. One of the things that we've really been encouraged by are the minority developers, the cohesiveness. I think READ is the group, and the fact that there are so many of them who are very impressive, and were it not for the inability perhaps to access capital, because for a long time, Detroit, in many circles, and still today, from an institutional capital standpoint, I think we're kind of the first, to show up here with institutional capital. And our commitment's pretty deep. Avanif's bought buildings in the North End Village and Cameron Court. The goal is to have at least 1,500 units under management over the next 3 to 5 years. But for us, and we can't do that alone. So our objective is to partner with as many of the local developers. Again, Jason Jones of Tecton has been extremely helpful because we've done stuff all over the country, convention centers, stadiums. I've been involved in redevelopment of military bases, 1,000-acre communities, but every place is different. So when you come to a different municipality, you really have to have someone hold your hand, regardless of how much expertise or money you have. And even if you are from here, they call us carpetbaggers when we, first, showed up, because we don't, Daryl lives in California and I live in Maryland. Yeah. But our objective is to partner with as many of the, the local developers as possible to try and also to try to get some of these processes as it relates to the abatements, et cetera, focused more on the neighborhoods, which is where I think the city's major recovery, that's where that's going to come from. I think the downtown development has been a great foundation, but years when I would come here and see everything happening downtown, and then I would go into my old neighborhood. I'd drive down the street I grew up on, and it was, just trying to figure out how can we do something about this. Yep. So that's kind of our commitment and, as I guess a long answer to your question of whether or not we'd still be here if it weren't for the personal commitment, I don't think so. Because this really should have been about a 2-year window, 2 to 2.5 for the project that we're doing. Yeah. But, we're very committed, going to stay the course, and, hopefully one day they'll take the carpetbagger label off of us.
Well, I think, even though there's a few thousand miles between, where you reside and where, and here, your heart still is here. And I think, just from a homer's perspective, to simplify, it is clear that the neighborhoods are where there's tremendous opportunity. This group represents a level of knowledge, a level of access, and a level of dedication to help, anyone that has an interest move those visions forward. We obviously don't have it all figured out yet. When Jed was with the mayor's office, there was a lot of really good work that was put in place, but it came after a lot of years of neglect, and that doesn't change overnight. But the passion, the commitment, and the expertise that is represented on this stage, but also in those organizations that we've mentioned, is real and is available. And I think that's different in Detroit than it is in a lot of other communities. And so hopefully this was a bit helpful.
One thing I want to add, because I think I'd be remiss if I didn't note that I think there has been a tremendous amount of support, political will, and willingness, to do what's necessary to allow us to facilitate the development in the neighborhoods. I don't think it's lost on the city's leadership that the neighborhoods need this. So I would be remiss if I didn't say that I think they've been over backwards to try and make sure that we're able to get to the finish line on this, just because of the fact I think what it represents from a neighborhood versus the downtown development standpoint. So
it's critical, and as Chase said, we've got to continue to invent, innovate, and really find creative ways to move this stuff forward. And clearly, the city leadership all the way through to those that are actually doing the hard work on the ground is there. So again, I can't thank you enough. I wish we had more time.
Yes.
Appreciate everybody for being here, and with that, please give a round of applause. And I think what I'm going to do is ask you guys to leave, and I'm going to call the other two up. All right. If that's okay with you, Mary. Thank you, guys. Thank you. All right. Which chair?